Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 259 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are joining us here this morning, or whether you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we are talking about today could be relevant for anyone in your network or circle, please hit the share button on whatever social media application you are watching this on and share the love with others. Well, if you have been following us here at the On Air Advocate, you know in the month of March, it is Kidney Awareness Month, but it is also Alport Syndrome Awareness Month, which is another kidney condition. And today I am so excited to kick off our Alport Awareness Series. I have with me today Kevin. He is from the Alport organization. He is the Director of Communications. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, Sammy. Thank you for having me this morning.
Yes, I'm so excited for you to be here and you to share with our audience. But Kevin, you haven't been here on the show before, so I would love for you to just share with everyone a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got involved with Alport.
Yeah, sure. So I'm 34 years old. As you said, I am the Director of Communications and Patient Engagement at Alport Syndrome Foundation. And my journey with Alport Syndrome really started when I was born and was relatively uneventful until my 20s. I went to college for radio journalism and to study English and communications. And I never thought that I would be here in the advocacy world and in the awareness world for rare disease and Alport syndrome. But here I am. The long and short of it is when I was born, I had something that was called hematuria. Something I still have. And what it is, it's microscopic blood in the urine. So this is something that was observed in my mother. It was observed in my maternal grandmother. And it was something that was essentially written off as benign. It was written off as benign familial hematuria, which means just that microscopic blood in the urine. We weren't expecting any issues. There was no reason to suspect that this was something at all related to the kidneys. It was just something that, like my mother and my maternal grandmother, I happened to have. So for most of my life, this was something that we didn't pay attention to. It was always in the back of my mind, and I was essentially a healthy boy. Otherwise, there was nothing during my early school years that was out of the norm, so to speak. I passed annual vision tests and hearing tests and the typical things that students do in school. I remained free of the hospital. I never broke a bone or did anything, much to my parents' delight. I was a pretty safe child, and there was really no reason to suspect that there was anything wrong with me. So we're going to fast forward now to my college years. I went away to the University of Scranton in Pennsylvania. Here in Long Island, New York is where I was born and raised, and I still am today. And when I reached the college years, it became very apparent that I had hearing loss. My friends would always say to me, did you not hear what we just said? And I would be saying, what? I found myself struggling in classes. I distinctly have this memory of junior year. There was an oral examination for my British literature class, and the professor asked 10 questions, and I didn't answer a single one on my piece of loose leaf paper because I simply couldn't hear him. And for me, that was a really sobering moment that this was something that was more than just, maybe hearing loss from going to lots of concerts or working at the college radio station. There was something that was serious that was happening here. And even with all that, I graduated college and I left college. I started working in the radio world. I was also doing part-time graphic design work. And one day I went into work and I just felt terrible. I had this ringing in my ears. I had been really nauseous for a few days prior, had trouble keeping food down, terrible fatigue. I had terrible muscle cramps, and I was writing off all these symptoms as poor exercise, poor sleep. I found an excuse for everything. My boss said, please go to a walk-in clinic, an urgent care clinic, and get looked at. I go into the urgent care clinic. The physician took one look at me and he said, we need to get you to a hospital, Kevin. So I was rushed to a hospital. And that night this is the summer of 2012, it was July 2012. I was 26 years old. They did quick lab work at the hospital, and I was informed that I was in stage 5 kidney disease, which is the 5th worst and final stage. My kidney function was actually only a meager 7%. The physicians were, quite frankly, shocked that I was still in the condition I was in, um, with that. And it was a total shock to me and my family. I had gone to that urgent care clinic assuming that I had the flu. I was hoping to get a Z-Pack or another 5-day medication and come home. And here I was in the hospital, immediately placed on dialysis. We ended up doing a biopsy within those first few days at the hospital, and the biopsy revealed that I had something called Alport syndrome. And my first reaction, and the reaction of maybe some of your viewers, is, "What is Alport syndrome? What the heck is this?" And as it turns out, Alport syndrome is a rare disease. First off,
Mhm.
a rare disease is a disease that has less than 200,000 people in the United States. As far as the estimates for how many folks actually have Alport syndrome, we say it's between 30,000 and 60,000 individuals in the United States. We know this number may actually be much higher due to misdiagnosis or lack of diagnosis, like mine. And also, when genetic testing is performed, we know these numbers are much higher than we report. So needless to say, what the heck is Alport syndrome, right? So Alport syndrome is a genetic kidney disease. Again, it's a rare disease. It causes kidneys to decline in function over time, also causes hearing to decline over time, which certainly explained why I was unable to hear my professors in class. And it can also cause eye abnormalities as well. So what Alport syndrome really is, it's caused by genetic mutations that
Mhm.
affect the type 4 collagen family of proteins. And these type 4 collagen is actually the link between the seemingly unrelated ear, kidneys, and eyes.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense that these three things are related, right? So when you get to the genetics and the meat of the science of this, we understand that the type 4 collagen is a major part of important tissue structures that we call basement membranes. And they're in all tissues in the body. As I said, the kidneys, the inner ear, and the eye. So there I was, had this biopsy, I have this thing called Alport syndrome. I'm literally on Google, Googling what is Alport syndrome, right? As anyone would do, to try to find more information. Admittedly, my physicians were very good, but they were the first to say that Alport syndrome was very much not even a paragraph in their medical textbooks. This is something, again, that is unfortunately common when we're discussing rare diseases.
Mhm.
So, needless to say, I'm Googling Alport syndrome and I see Alport Syndrome Foundation. And I say, okay, this sounds good. And I go to the website and I call the phone number listed on the bottom right away. And the individual that picked up was Sharon Lagas, who happens to be the co-founder of the organization, which she started in 2007. And she also is a former president of the board as well for our foundation. And she answered the phone right away. She was pretty much a one-person staff at that time. And I shared everything that I had just gone through in the past few weeks to the hospital and this unexpected diagnosis. And Sharon told me her family history and how devastating it had been for her family across many members and many generations. And at the time when Sharon's family was going through this, she's like me, looking for help. And there wasn't any help. And Sharon was told that there wasn't any help. So Sharon took it upon herself to create Alport Syndrome Foundation. So that phone call with Sharon was so life changing for me. I immediately wanted to give back and started volunteering for the foundation, which I did. So I started doing small projects like social media and a few other things. And lo and behold, all these years later, I ended up doing some part-time roles. Now I'm full-time. Since October of 2019, I proudly served as the foundation's director of communications and patient engagement.
Wow. Okay. And so with all that you just shared, when you were in the hospital, you found out that you have it, you found you're on dialysis, all of this. So then did you end up getting a kidney transplant?
Right. So I was in the hospital on dialysis. I eventually went home where I was doing peritoneal dialysis. I was attached to a machine every night, which would fill up my abdomen with fluid and drain it out and basically do the job that my failed kidneys were not doing. I did that for 10 hours a night every single day for 2 years. Um, Thankfully, at the end of that 2 year span, one of my best friends, he and I had gone through the testing process. He was thankfully a match, which is really the best happenstance thing ever. And my friend Matthew was able to give me one of his kidneys in May 2014. He saved my life. He was able to take me off dialysis and greatly improve my quality of life.
Wow. And so we talk about this genetically, right? Because it's like the mutation. is there usually another direct family member, like your parents or your grandparents, or how far down the line does it go, or do they not really know that yet?
Sure, sure. So when it comes to Alport syndrome genetics, there are really three main types that are commonly studied. There's also evidence for a fourth. I happen to have what most people consider to be the most popular type of Alport syndrome that's documented and studied, and that's X-linked Alport syndrome. That is to say that my mom passed on an X chromosome to me. And my mom, thankfully, her renal function is still around 60%. My grandmother lived well into her 80s and passed away of other conditions. So she certainly realistically had a decline in renal function. Whether or not that was ever picked up by her doctors, we don't know. My own mother didn't realize this was something that was affecting her until my own diagnosis in 2012. So then she realized, oh boy, now this is something that I certainly have as I pass it on to you. And since 2012, thankfully, my mother has been on the current standard of treatment to ensure that her kidneys stay as healthy as they can. Realistically, my mother will outlive the kidney disease progression, but it's still something that very much requires monitoring. There are two other types of Alport syndrome as well. We call autosomal recessive Alport syndrome. That's when each parent passes on a mutated gene, and autosomal dominant, in which only one mutated gene is passed down. And those second two types account for, probably realistically most of the other type of Alport syndrome cases that we see out there. And Alport syndrome genetics is so important because the genetic type is going to determine again, how you're going to pass this on. Or when
Right.
folks get diagnosed like me, going back up the family tree, it's really both ways in the family tree you have to be looking. And as the progression of kidney disease is affected by which type of Alport syndrome you have, it's so important that folks who think they may be affected or they have a suspected diagnosis get genetic testing done as soon as possible to get that diagnosis, be put on treatments earlier, and ideally have better outcomes because of these things. Our community is fortunate enough to have no charge and minimum charge genetic testing that is available to our community. So to anyone out there who has Alport syndrome, who is thinking of a family member who is reluctant to get tested, please, please, please have them tested to confirm a diagnosis and they can be treated properly.
Wow. And when we talk about, rare disease and rare syndromes and not always knowing the signs and the symptoms, right? That are there. I mean, you like went through school, you didn't hear it, you're in college, you
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Tammy.
I
And I
mean,
think
so those signs and symptoms that people should be looking for.
what's interesting is there are some patients in our community where we have much younger patients who have much more pronounced hearing loss. For me, I think I was able to skirt by grade school and high school, and my hearing decline was not until really my early 20s. Generally speaking, men with X-linked Alport syndrome like me do enter renal failure in their 30s, maybe as late as their 40s, but they're realistically going to enter renal failure. So I pretty much follow the typical progress pattern of an X-linked male. But again, just because someone might have hearing loss or a vision abnormality, it's so hard to link that to a kidney issue, especially if it's something that is not pronounced, if folks aren't getting routine urine screens or things like that, it goes unnoticed.
Right. Right. I just think to myself, wow, I mean, if it wouldn't have been for feeling sick that day and you wouldn't have went in, I mean, the doctors, I'm sure with only 7% function probably didn't give you any a very positive outlook if you wouldn't have come in.
Yeah, I mean, in my particular situation, and I often think to myself, would it have been better had I known shortly after birth that I had this condition? Or maybe it would have been looming over my head for a long time, as opposed to finding out at literally the last possible hour, right? So for me, it was very much a reactive situation and not a proactive, as opposed to patients in our community who hopefully don't undergo what I did. I'm sad to report that based on a recent study we did of over 240 confirmed Alport patients, 10% reported that they didn't find out about their Alport diagnosis until they were like me in stage 5 kidney disease. So my situation is unfortunately much more common than we'd all like it to be. But for those who are able to catch their Alport syndrome earlier, whether it's a routine urine screening, whether it's blood work, whether it's a genetic testing, which is certainly the gold standard. Many folks might have had a biopsy at some point in their life, which also can be helpful. These are the folks that can begin treatment. So we do have a standard care of treatment. Right now, there are a series of blood pressure medications that we call ACE inhibitors or ARBS, and the ACEs and ARBs are designed to keep the kidneys happy and healthy. And there certainly is research that shows these ACEs and ARBs can slow the progression of our kidney disease. And this is so important. They're not, unfortunately, a cure. We don't have an FDA-approved treatment or cure for Alport syndrome yet, but that is certainly something that our foundation is working on.
And when do they feel like most people are affected? I mean, it sounds like a lot of people don't find out till their teen years or don't get the diagnosis. But is this something that you are born with? It's not something you can develop. It's something genetically, hands down, you're born with.
That's correct. You're born with it. And again, as the genetic types can vary, there are certainly even mutations within those types of Alport syndrome. The range of progression can vary. So, we have folks, females who may go into end-stage renal failure maybe in their 60s. And then we have children that are born and shortly afterwards in their formative years, they start experiencing progressive hearing decline. So, it really is such a wide range. It's hard to know exactly when to look for Alport syndrome. That's why an early diagnosis is so critical.
Okay. And the Alport Syndrome Foundation, what are the different services? Because they seem like when I was looking up things, because it is a rare disease, there's not zillions of foundations out there that, support this, that know about it, that have the information. What are all the layers of the foundation, from areas of support, like from support groups to resources to help finding doctors and all of that kind of stuff?
Sure. So it's important to note that Alport Syndrome Foundation is the leading independent patient-run nonprofit organization that is educating and giving a voice to our rare Alport syndrome community. Our mission is to improve the lives of all those affected by Alport syndrome through education, empowerment, advocacy, and research. And our vision is ultimately to conquer Alport syndrome. So services we offer, all types of education services. I encourage anyone with Alport syndrome or even a researcher or physician to check out our website. We have everything divided by demographics. We have education for our teens, for our young adults, for our adults, information for males versus females, information for our researchers, information for our doctors. We have the treatment guidelines that are printable. We have all types of information on our research program. We began that research program over a decade ago, and we've invested close to $2 million in research. So to think we just started in 2007 because Sharon felt the need to create a support network, here we are all these years later, and certainly the research is light years ahead of where it was 2 and 3 years ago, let alone back in 2007. One of the things that I'm most proud of that we do is just bringing patients together. So we have an annual Alport family meeting. These would generally be in-person events that feature our patients and caregivers and families flying from all over the country, normally to a medical institution where one of our researchers or medical advisory committee members is held. It's a great way for families just to meet someone else with this condition. We have so many patients who have never met another Alport Syndrome Foundation, another Alport Syndrome, I'm sorry, another Alport Syndrome patient, well, let alone Alport Syndrome Foundation staff member for that matter. There's actually only two of us, so very few have met us, if they didn't go to the meetings. And bringing these people together for the family weekend is so important. They hear directly from the experts. They can ask their questions and get the answers directly from the experts. When they're not able to meet us in person, we do virtual webinars with our experts. We have an Alport Syndrome Foundation support group that has close to 2,800 international and US patients. So there are conversations happening in that support group 24 hours a day. It's so great just to chime in and tell your story and meet another patient. And meeting another patient and just being able to have that emotional support on top of the education is so important for rare diseases like ours.
Yes. And did I see you guys do you have an app as
We
well?
we most certainly do, and the app was something that came about in the summer of 2020. We had planned an in-person event for Cleveland, and unfortunately, as the situation worsened with the pandemic, we had to go virtual. So we pivoted to virtual. We created our own app. It is called ASF Community, and the ASF Community app is open to patients and families and caregivers around the world. We are going to be using that platform to host all our educational content this summer. It's another great way for folks to quickly have resources right in their pocket. So we want them when they go to their doctor's office, they can open the app and immediately pull up treatment guidelines or immediately pull up any other type of information, research. We're so pleased to be able to offer that a nice consolidated, condensed spot for our patients to have access to that right away.
I love it. I love it. And before we wrap up today, I wanted to ask you, What do you think the most important action steps are to do if you get some type of diagnosis? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're at the doctor, they're saying that there is some blood in your urine, that they're finding that maybe, you're just this, you're new to this, you haven't even started researching about kidneys or whatnot. What would you say the first steps are if you think that you might have some type of kidney condition?
If you even remotely suspect this, certainly if there's a family history, you absolutely must pursue getting an accurate diagnosis as soon as humanly possible. Certainly, genetic testing now is the gold standard. And again, with the no charge and minimum charge opportunities available to our community, there's really no excuse not to get the genetic testing done. It gives you the confirmed diagnosis, gives you the peace of mind. It allows you to start being treated earlier. And once you're able to do that at any point during this process, we encourage those who have a suspected diagnosis and certainly a confirmed diagnosis to reach out to Alport Syndrome Foundation. Our website is alportsyndrome.org. We have a giant free membership button right on the top, and we encourage folks to sign up and be part of our community so they can stay in the loop with periodic updates about research. We actually just released some updated pediatric guidelines that went out by email to our community. They're able to connect with the experts, connect with other patients. So we want folks to reach out to us. And again, it's that equal mix of both education, but also the emotional support.
Right, right. And so if I'm understanding this right, with the genetic testing, if somebody has a family history of knowing that there have been some kidney issues, they're finding out so many things, they can reach out to you guys and you have a program that they possibly can get genetic testing done for free, or their family.
Right. So these programs are independent of Alport Syndrome Foundation. However, hundreds of our patients have benefited from these programs,
Okay.
and we can certainly provide all the information that these suspected patients need. They just give the information to their doctor. Their doctor will order the kits. It's normally a blood test or a quick saliva test or a cheek swab for our 1 and 2 year olds even. And getting that diagnosis really has never been easier, more accurate, or quicker. So I'm very grateful to say that that's something that's available right now. I would also tell patients who do have that confirmed diagnosis that there is hope. And I think for me, I was certainly at the time very concerned just about surviving dialysis and getting a transplant. There wasn't much time to think about a lot of it or process it till later. And I quite frankly suffered in silence for a long time. And I don't want folks to do that. Everyone certainly has their own grieving period, and that's natural and normal. But there has to come a time when you realize, okay, I have this condition. I can't change that. Here are the steps I can take to ensure that my health is, taken care of as best that I can, my physician can, my children's health can be taken care of as best as they can. And I want folks to know that, there are 3 human clinical trials in Alport syndrome, one of which is currently under review by the FDA, and the other 2 are currently recruiting both here in the United States and abroad. So this is something where we did not have clinical trials a few years ago, and now we have 3. And again, coupled with our research and more patients coming to us and us doing patient surveys and learning more and more about our community and more research being done on the genetics of Alport syndrome, the future of the next generation of Alport syndrome patients is not the past generation. And that's so important to stress, that there has never been a better time to feel hopeful for Alport syndrome patients.
Yes, and I commend you guys on your work. You guys have really covered all bases, and I think that coming out with like an app and something you can use, especially during the pandemic and the crisis that we have had, what a better way to keep people connected. So you guys just have so many things. So we're gonna, when we're done with this today, this live, we're gonna drop all that information below as well. But what is that website again?
Sure, it is Alport Syndrome, ALPORT, syndrome.org. And that is where you can find all types of links, again, not just for patients, but for medical professionals, researchers. We would love everyone to come visit our website. There's a little bit for everyone.
I love it. I love it. Well, I thank you, Kevin, so much for being here this morning, sharing your story with us here at the On Air Advocate. If you guys want to know any more about the On Air Advocate, you can head on over to onairadvocate.com and you can find all of our resources right there. And until next time, thank you guys so much for spending your morning with us. Thank you again, Kevin.
Thank you, Sammy.
All right. Bye-bye.